Give it a second. Let some people tune in. We're live everywhere. All right, guys. Just double checking. Yeah, the sound's on because I made that mistake yesterday. Don't want to make that mistake again. We're going to get into it pretty quickly. And today we're talking about a reason that you are not making progress in your training. And plain and simple, this one I'm excited for because this is something that I see quite often. And it was a big lesson from the event that I was at this weekend. I got to listen to Layne Norton. I was talking about this a little bit on the broadcast yesterday. Appreciate you guys as you come through. And basically, what Layne was talking about was he was talking about as a coach, you need to not just provide a program, but you need to teach people how to succeed. And it got me thinking. It was like, what are the areas that people that I work with fall back on? What issues do they have? And one of the main ones that I came up with, and that's both for programs of mine as well as other athletes that I see or other athletes that I see talking to me in my DMs. One of the main issues I come up with is people getting worried about their training not being perfect. And this is something that holds so many of you guys back. So today, that is exactly what we're going to talk about. And make sure you stick around because we're going to do a little bit of Q&A after the podcast is over. But for now, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I am your host, Kenny Dussault, and today we are talking about progress over perfection. Now, the reason we're talking about this is because, plain and simple, this is a mindset that I see too many athletes struggle with. And it's a mindset that is very, very present in the world of combat sports. And over the last few days, I've been thinking about why that is. And what I came to when I was thinking about this was this mindset gets enforced in athletes right from the day that they start martial arts, right? You have certain techniques. You have to perform those techniques exactly perfectly. You need to, learn the method, perfect the system, perfect every specific punch and kick and whatever. And it gets you guys into this mindset of, I need to be perfect all the time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to stop trying to, perfect your techniques, stop trying to make improvements, because that would just be stupid. Of course, you need to continue to try to improve, try to get better, all of those things. But it got me thinking more specifically, where do I see people struggle in my programs with the coaching that I do? And that same perfectionist type of mindset gets in the way of a lot of you guys when you start strength and conditioning. And I realized for a long time that I wasn't seeing this problem until I was at this event in Houston this past weekend, and I got to learn from one of the best coaches in our industry, Layne Norton. And the thing that Layne said was, he was like, as a coach, it's not just your job to coach your people, it's your job to teach your people how to succeed within that coaching. And I realized that outside of, the typical objection of, financial things came up and I can't continue because of that, the main issue that I see people have when we work together is feeling like they're not able to perfectly stick to the program. And I always tell them the same thing, which I'm going to dig into a little bit in this episode. And I always tell them the goal isn't to perfectly stick to the program. Now, that's a mindset that a lot of people have trouble wrapping their minds around, right? The goal is not to be perfect. Like, what do you mean? Like, of course you need to be perfect. That's the way you're going to make the most progress, right? And the thing you guys need to remember about that is, yes, you're athletes. Yes, you're always working on improving. Yes, you're always working on leveling up. But more so than that, guys, you're human beings with lives. And because you're human beings with lives, sometimes those lives get in the way. And when those lives get in the way, yes, sometimes life is in the way a little bit, and it's up to you to figure out a way to do it anyway. But other times, life's in the way a little bit, and there's literally nothing you can do to fix that problem, right? So, like, I had something come up with an athlete recently where it was like, I don't feel like I can get as much as I need out of the program because, I'm traveling a lot with work. And it was like, okay, I understand that. You're out of town, you're traveling, but in that time that you're away, instead of thinking, well, I can't get enough out of the program, I need to just stop. What can you get out of the program while you're away? right? Even if it means missing a day, even if it means modifying some workouts, what can you get in that time away? And this is, and again, no disrespect whatsoever to this athlete if you are listening to this. I get it. I understand. But this is where I realized that as a coach, I can be doing better for my people, but I also want to reinforce this with you guys, right? The mistake, the issue, the problem that I see with so many of you guys when you run into a situation like this, you're out of town for a bit, or, an injury comes up or whatever, is it's, hey, I got hurt, so I need to stop training because, I can't do the program perfectly. So if I can't do the program perfectly, I may as well not do it at all. Maybe not in those words, but essentially that's the gist of the conversation. But what you've got to understand is that the key is not being able to do the program effectively. The key is being able to continue to progress, right? And the reason that that's so important is that if you're not continuing to make progress and everyone else is, even if their progress isn't perfect, you get hurt, you're up here, you get hurt, and then you stop training, you're going to start getting worse. Whereas the person who gets hurt and modifies their training and doesn't make it perfect, but makes it as good as they can, continues to get better. Maybe not at the same rate as they are when they're healthy, but they're going to continue to get better. They're going to continue to see more improvements faster and in turn get better results coming back into their sport. Right? And the other issue with this is it's just the mindset. So if every time life gets in the way, you just quit on the goal that you have, you quit, doing your training, working towards seeing the success that you're trying to see, then what happens when you're further down the road? What happens when, you've made it a little bit further, you're at a high level now, you're professional, now life gets in the way again? Do you just stop training? Do you just give it up? Do you just say, oh, no, I can't do this because life's getting in the way? Because if you do that, guys, you will never get to a competition. You're never going to get to the levels you want to get to because every time something gets in the way, you stop. Whereas in the meantime, the other side of the coin, people are having those same life events come up, but when that injury comes up, instead of stopping, they're figuring out how to alter their training to work around it and continue to improve. Who do you think is getting better? The one who says, situation right now isn't perfect, so I should just give it up entirely? Or the one who says, situation right now is perfect, so what can I do to continue to get better while I'm dealing with this? Who's getting further? Who's making it to those high levels? I know the answer, and I'm pretty confident every single one of the people watching this live stream knows the answer too. Yet you keep doing that to yourself. So what I want you guys to keep thinking, and it's this one very, very simple phrase, and this is going to be something that in my own programs, I start to really reinforce more effectively with my people, is progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. I'm going to say it one more time. Progress over perfection. And the reason this is so important, guys, and the reason I said it 3 times is because your goal at all times is to continue to be moving forward. Now, yes, and I've talked about this before, your goal is to continue to try to optimize how you can move forward, right? Your goal is to get the best possible result in the least amount of time, but that's going to change based off of where life's at right now. Like if you wake up tomorrow and you're deathly ill, then the way you make the most progress isn't by going to train and trying to do everything regardless, even though, your body's physically not able, because you're going to push your body past its limits and continue to keep it sick. The goal for you to make the most progress on that day in that situation is to focus on doing what you need to do to get better so that you can get back to training at 100%. Right? The goal, if you're injured, is not to just continue to train normally and not think about the injury, because then you're not going to actually heal the injury and you're not going to get better. And then you might feel good because you kept training, but then you try to throw your left hand when you've hurt that left shoulder. Now you can't throw a jab because you didn't actually take the time to fix the problem with the shoulder. Right? So when that injury comes up, the way you make the most progress in the least amount of time is by focusing on actually rehabbing and fixing that injury. So the reason you're not making as much progress as you want is because you're not actually addressing problems as they come up. You're not addressing problems as they come up. You're just trying to work through them. You're trying to ignore them. You're trying to just keep going, not think about it, just tough it out. And when you do these things, by trying to continuously perfectly stick to the program when you're not physically able to do that, then you're just doing more harm than good, right? You're causing more injury. And if you're not causing more, like, if you're quitting the program because you're away for a little while, well, then you're just letting go of all the progress you made, right? You made all this progress, the gas tank's improved, the punching power's improved, and then you're like, oh, life's a little busy for the next couple months, so I'm just going to quit. You don't get to keep that progress. You don't you haven't built up to, this new level and then you just stay there. Like, you need to continuously work at it. And if you're not continuously working at it, you're going to lose it. So now all that time you put in while life wasn't busy, you get to this certain level, life gets busy, you fall off. And then the next time you start up again, you're starting back from level 1. And that's why you're not making progress, because every time you start training, you're starting from level 1. You're training until something makes you decide to stop. You stop, then you drop back to level 1 and you repeat the fucking cycle. And then you wonder why you've been training for 7 years and your gas tank still sucks, or your power still sucks, or you're not able to fight at the level you want to. It's because you take these 3-month fucking breaks every time something gets in the way. But if you just figured out a way to alter it, instead of 3 strength and conditioning sessions a week, you hit 2. Instead of every session being an hour and 15 minutes, they're 45 minutes, right? Is it the same amount of progress every single day? No, but it's still progress. Instead of getting 1% better every day, you get 0.75% better every day. But you're still getting better every day. You guys get what I'm saying? Except when you drop off, you go from getting 1% better every day to getting 0% better every day. But then, if anything, actually getting worse, because you're not continuing to work at the issues. So my main point here, guys, and what I'm going to leave you with, is get perfection out of your mind. It doesn't exist. If you are an athlete listening to this right now and you work a hard labor job, the perfect program for the athlete who just trains and fights and doesn't have any other job isn't the perfect program for you. You shouldn't be training the same number of hours. You shouldn't be training at the same intensity. You shouldn't be on the same weight training program as them. Why? Because you have 10 hours a day of hard labor to do that they don't have. So their body's recovering while yours is working, and then you're expecting that you're going to be at the same level over here. That's not a thing, right? You need to find the best way for you to make progress based off of your specific situation. And then as life throws different things at you, instead of quitting because, it's a little uncomfortable, I got to step back, you've got to put yourself in the position where you can step forward in whatever way you can. Now, again, I mentioned an athlete of mine earlier in the podcast. I didn't say names or anything like that, and I still won't. And if you are listening to this, there's no disrespect. I get it, but it was that conversation that made me think, hey, this is an important conversation, and this is something that we need to talk about, right? Because this athlete is definitely not the first one, and definitely won't be the last of you guys out there that makes that mistake, right? That, makes that change. And, I like this dude a lot, and I know that he's going to continue to make progress. He's going to continue to improve, but it's a very easy trap to fall into, to say life's busy right now, and so I can't keep training, instead of saying life's busy right now, so we need to make alterations to it so that we can continue to make as much progress as possible based off of your situation. So guys, I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And as always, I will catch you on the next episode.